Yo, so we back in here for another edition of F-ya-Motha, and usually I'd go through the motions of reporting some shit and informing y'all as to why, especially when it pertains to politics, why you shouldn't vote for certain candidates. But I ain't gonna go through all that. Not only that, my language is too flagrant and too colorful for YouTube, so I'm just gonna run the reel, let y'all come to a conclusion. If and after you see all this evidence and you still want to vote for Kamala Harris because you want to vote against Donald Trump, Kanye West might be right. Y'all might be on a Democratic plantation. I'm gonna run the reel.
Vice President Kamala Harris describes her ethnicity in her own words.
Today, on August 15th, 2020, I stand before you as the first candidate for Vice President of the United States of South Asian descent. People of India and to Indian Americans all across the United States.
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
It is so good to hear our president's voice. Joe, I know you're still on the call.
Before y'all Democrats start trying to play the race card, I want y'all to understand this. Kamala is not black. Her kids is not black. Her husband is not black. She does not come from black culture. So don't tell me I got to support Kamala Harris because she's black. The race pander from the Democratic Party got to stop. It's really that simple. Thank you for listening.
They not like us. Is that how you speak when you're at a debate? Is that how you speak when you're in front of a convention?
Good morning, AIPAC. Good morning. What an honor. No, we must stand with Israel.
Do you support reparations for black people?
So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No.
Which is why I support the United States' commitment to provide Israel with $38 billion in military assistance over the next decade.
So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No.
I support full funding for Israel, including for the Arrow, David Sling, and the Iron Dome missile defense systems, which save lives.
So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No.
And that's why I am fully committing to maintaining Israel's qualitative military edge.
So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No.
I stand here clear-eyed about the dangers of division in our country and in our world, understanding why a state for the Jewish people is so essential.
Do you support reparations for black people?
No.
What's bizarre is she's trying to frame herself as Miss Black Lives Matter, when in reality, Kamala Harris was the queen of mass incarceration. Kevin Cooper was hours away from receiving lethal injection. Hours away from it. His lawyers asked that DNA evidence be acquired in order to make sure he was actually guilty of the crime. Kamala Harris's office tried to prevent DNA evidence from being acquired. They wanted Kevin Cooper to be executed, but the governor of California disagreed. They acquired DNA evidence, and the execution was stopped. The New York Times tells us that she feels really bad about it, for whatever that means. And people can also recall that while she was head of the California State Attorney General's office, over 1,000 people were locked up for smoking marijuana. She presided over jailing a lot of people. And on top of that, the drug labs in the state of California that were being used by the police were turning up false positive results. And yet Kamala Harris's office did not tell the defense attorneys or the judges about this. They knew that the drug labs were turning over false positives, and people went to prison because her office concealed that their drug labs were turning up false positives. And another thing about Kamala Harris, I don't know if people saw, but there's a video of Kamala Harris where she's bragging about how she jailed the parents of children who were truant from school.
I would not be standing here were it not for the education I received. And I know many of us will say the same thing. And I believe a child going without an education is tantamount to a crime. So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy. Well, this was a little controversial in San Francisco. And frankly, my staff went bananas. They were very concerned because we didn't know at the time whether I was going to have an opponent in my re-election race. But I said, look, I'm done. This is a serious issue, and I've got a little political capital, and I'm going to spend some of it.
Never in a million years I would have thought that they were going to charge me for Sale's murder. I never talked to no detective, no police officer, no DA, nobody.
Just arrested and then charged.
Arrested and charged, that's it.
Was the first time you saw Kamala Harris in person the day that the verdict was issued?
She showed up at the two most pivotal times in this first trial, and me being convicted and me being sentenced. She wanted to be present for a celebration of a conviction.
That's what it felt like, celebration?
A celebration, that's what it felt like. The reactions I get when I tell people my story is, they say it's the worst nightmare. You know, it's the closest thing to dying. When I put in my appeal, the people that's fighting against my appeal to keep the conviction is the Attorney General office. I learned it reading, you know, their reply to my appeal, and you see Kamala Harris' name at the bottom. And now it's starting to feel a little personal.
Could only imagine. The appeals court also found there was prosecutorial misconduct. Kamala Harris was the San Francisco DA during your case. What role do you feel she played in your wrongful conviction?
There's a lot of cases out there, which I know definitively that a lot of people was wrongfully convicted under her watch.
No one's ready to deal with us.